D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The Game. Adam Vingan, Connor Nute, Brandon Bigsby here with you on a Friday, a beautiful Friday in Nashville, Tennessee. Willie Donick and Derek Mason, one final day of vacation. Both of them will return to the airwaves on Monday. Connor, good to have you back, my friend.
Good to be back. Thank you.
Chad Withrow will join the program in roughly 20 minutes. He was at SEC Media Days, which has thankfully concluded. We'll get Chad's thoughts on everything he saw and heard down in Tampa this week. Turron Davenport, ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter, will join us at 4 for the entire hour as we continue to preview Titans training camp. Practice less than 1 week away. So TD will be in studio with us from 4 to 5. If you've got questions for Turron Davenport, you could already start getting them in right now at 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. But before we get into sports, I do have a traffic-related question for Connor, Brandon, and all of you. Again, that number is 615-737-1025 because traffic was a nightmare for me on the way to the studio this afternoon. If you are at a red light, the light turns green, and the person in front of you doesn't drive, how long is appropriate before you honk the horn to tell the person, get moving?
2 seconds.
Okay.
And that's generous. As soon as that light turns green, I'm a punch it Margie guy. I floor it. I'm gone.
Okay. You say 2 seconds, Connor. Brandon, how long is appropriate to wait until you give someone a honk?
I would probably say 3. I'll go 1 more second than 2 just because I'm a very non-conflict based person and people are crazy. But after about 3 seconds, you need to go, and it's very clear you're just not paying attention.
Yeah, my wife doesn't like when I honk because she doesn't know who the other person is in the other car. And there are crazy people out there.
Yeah, you
especially
with that.
On the roads here in Nashville. I gave someone what I call it a courtesy honk. Like I don't lay on the horn. I don't go. I just go. Burp. Just a little. Just let them know I'm there. Burp.
Short and sweet.
Yes, I go with 2 Mississippi.
Okay,
I go 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Burp.
You guys are more generous than I am. I don't want to say I'm a road rager because I've never driven someone off the road purposely or anything like that. But I am. My senses are heightened when I'm on the road, and stuff like that pisses me off to oblivion. So pay attention on the road, please.
I will always remember when I was learning how to drive. We were doing the highway lesson. So it was the first time I was driving onto the interstate. I was on the on-ramp, and my driving instructor thought I wasn't driving fast enough. And he said, and I quote, floor it, Grandma. And I remember that 20 years later. And when I get on the interstate, I floor it, Grandma.
That's where I get punch it Margie. I think that's I don't know what reference that is before my time. But, my dad used to say, floor it, Margie. So now I do it.
Neil says 3 seconds. Neil says it's okay to wait 3 seconds before you give someone what I call the courtesy honk. Benjamin says, I'm too nice. 5 Mississippi. You are way too nice, Benjamin. You can miss the light at 5 Mississippi.
You can't hold on to the ball for 5 Mississippis. You'll get sacked.
The worst is when somebody holds up the line and you ultimately miss the green light because somebody was holding up the line. That drives me bonkers.
I go anyway. One of these days it'll get me and I'll get pulled over. And of course, because I'm putting that out into the universe right now, it'll be today. But I go. If you hold me up, too bad. I'm going.
One texter says the same amount of time between play clock hitting 0 and the refs calling delay of game. So instantaneously?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe I'm too nice. I mean, Benjamin gives 5 Mississippi. I'm definitely not that nice. I go 2 Mississippi. And I'm not laying on the horn. It's just a little burp.
No, I don't lay on the horn. I've just given my...
I just need to know. I just need you to know that I'm there. I'm behind you. I need to go. You're not going. Burp. That's it.
I go a little bit longer than that. I'll go up, but I'm not going to lay on the horn.
Chad says, I want to be very clear that my honk isn't courteous. Get the hell out of the way. That That is one way to
I agree.
operate.
I agree, Chad. Don't be courteous.
Don't be Curtis. Don't be courteous. You don't want to have a visit from Curtis E. Bear, the courtesy bear. All right.
Is that a thing?
It was a Simpsons joke.
Okay.
Chase probably gets it if he's listening.
Yeah.
The major sports news of the day. At long last, LeBron James has made yet another decision. After seriously considering retirement, LeBron James is signing with the Philadelphia 76ers for his final run at another NBA championship. He is signing a 2-year, $8 million contract with the Sixers. ESPN reports he made nearly $53 million with the LA Lakers last season. And Connor, LeBron James is not beating those ring-chasing allegations
Never will.
by joining the Philadelphia 76ers. I am fascinated by how that experiment is going to work because that team already has a lot of players who like to have the ball in their hands. You add in Jaylen Brown, you've got Tyrese Maxey, you've got Joel Embiid, VJ Edgecombe. So this could be an experiment that goes totally wrong. But here's one thing I do know about how this is going to go. It's going to be must-see TV. The Sixers are going to be on national television as much as humanly possible. And I'll admit, I'm going to be suckered in to start the year. I want to see how this goes. But if you are someone who believes that LeBron James can't win an NBA title without a little help from his friends, this decision probably isn't helping him in that regard.
I mean, I put it out earlier. I know someone who won 6 rings and didn't need to move teams or need help from his big-time buddies to get that. His name's Michael Jordan. I know someone who won 5 rings and stayed with the same team and maybe had a little bit more help than Jordan did, but still got it done. His name's Kobe Bryant. So I don't know. I think this tarnishes LeBron's legacy a little bit. The fact that he's moved so many times in such dramatic fashion that LeBron is just, he's not the guy to me. I think he settles for more, well, he doesn't settle, but in this case he settled. He's taking a lot less money than he usually does. But the fact that he's moved 5 times throughout his career and, been part of super teams that have won rings, I can't get behind that. It's just not something that I support. And it's hard for me to get behind a world where we're calling this guy the greatest of all time when he's played for 5 different teams. And you could argue every ring he's won hasn't been because of him. That's just my opinion.
ESPN notes that the 76ers moved from 20-1 to plus 900 to win the NBA Finals following LeBron James's announcement that he is joining the Sixers. I was hoping, Connor, that LeBron James would go back to Cleveland because the idea of LeBron James finishing his career where it started, I like when things are wrapped up in a nice, neat little package. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was hoping for Cleveland. A few weeks ago, I argued to Willie and Derek that I would have loved to see LeBron James on the San Antonio Spurs. The idea of LeBron James joining up with Victor Wembanyama in that really young team, you saw that inexperience, I think, exposed in the NBA Finals against the New York Knicks. Having LeBron James there as a mentor to Victor Wembanyama, I really liked that idea, but I think the Spurs were never really in the running for LeBron James. But LeBron James going to Philadelphia and finishing his career as a journeyman, it just, something doesn't feel right about it. But LeBron James does have an opportunity to do something that no other NBA player has ever done, and that is win an NBA title with 4 different franchises. Of course, he won with the Miami Heat, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the LA Lakers, and now he could do it again with the Sixers. He is one of 4 players to win a title with 3 different teams, along with Danny Green, Robert Horry, and John Sally. So if LeBron James wants to win a title, I think he probably joined the right team.
I don't know.
At the same time,
They got to stay healthy.
That's where I was going. As that thought left my lips, I also thought, is Joel Embiid going to be healthy for any significant portion of the season? I mean, tying your championship hopes to Joel Embiid's health is a dangerous proposition. But between LeBron James, Embiid, Maxey, Brown, Edgecombe, it's going to be really fascinating. So LeBron James signs with the Philadelphia 76ers. One texter says, LeBron's legacy is so far from being able to be tarnished by any decision he made today. He's a top 3 player of all time at worst. Personally, he's probably the best all-around basketball player I think we've seen. Benjamin says, no matter where he went, people would say ring chasing, Warriors, Heat, or Cavs. Perhaps, but to take as little money as he is taking to join the Sixers, that does feel a little ring chasey to me. And look, I don't knock it. If he wants to solidify his legacy, he's got, how many titles does LeBron James have?
4.
He's got 4, and Michael has 6. If he wants to catch Michael Jordan, if he thinks this is his easiest way to do it, I mean, go for it, man. I mean, I will not criticize him for that. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm off.
I will.
I think it's fair to criticize it, but I will say this. I think that Philadelphia is probably the only team that you genuinely could say was viewed as ring chasing because they had Tyrese Maxey there. They have Joel Embiid there. They have VJ Edgecombe, and they just traded for Jaylen Brown. So, and it's also been reported that he wasn't considering the 76ers until after the Jaylen Brown trade. I think that if he goes to Miami or if he goes to Cleveland because he already has ties there, people don't view it in that same way. But to go to a team that he has no connection with, no ties with, and by the way, he kind of said Jaylen Brown, he had no problem with him other than he kind of did dog on his son at Summer League a couple of years ago and got caught for that. So I think all of that is what makes people think that it's ring chasing because he has no affiliation with them whatsoever other than that looks like the best team. I can win with them. I don't have to be the best player. I can go win 2 rings potentially.
By the way, Bronny James apparently not a package deal with his dad. So who the hell knows if Bronny James will join his dad in Philadelphia.
So it's not like the Jamal Adams clip where he goes to the Jets facility and types in his code and it doesn't work. He goes, damn, they must have cut me.
Not yet, at least. And by the way, I mean, the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, immediately proclaimed Friday as LeBron James Day in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So they're very excited.
Are people really going to remember LeBron as a Sixer?
No.
Like, when it's all said and done, title or not in Philadelphia, what are people going to remember LeBron most for? To me, it's Cleveland.
To me, it's going back to Cleveland, the chase down block at the end of the Warriors series, winning the title. Ohio, this is for you. Like, yeah. That's what people are going to remember LeBron James for. They'll remember the not 1, not 2, not 3, or however many times he counted when he was introduced as a member of the Miami Heat. But, you know, we do see this in sports. We do see a great player near the end of his career join a loaded team, try to get that championship, that elusive championship, one more championship. Yeah. I mean, LeBron's career in Philadelphia, if it lasts the 2 years, I mean, it will be a footnote in a incredible career. But one texter says, well, LeBron and Embiid will miss a combined 50 games for rest since they are old and brittle. I mean, that's
true.
That is possible. Jeremy in Clarksville says, LeBron just needs to retire. Go away. You'll never be MJ. And you know what, Jeremy? It's people like you that's fueling LeBron James to do this in the first place. That's all I'm saying.
And you'll miss him when he's gone because every league needs someone that people love to hate. You need someone who's polarizing. Even the people that don't like LeBron are going to miss LeBron when he's no longer playing because it gives them that person to hate. It gives them that person to root against.
Craig says, I just know I would hate being on a road trip with Vingan. I'm not counting Mississippi's and I'm not giving courtesy honks. I'm honking until you move your ass. Well,
yep.
I'm not a huge road trip guy. Like, to me, my limit for driving at any one time is like 4 hours. Like, after that, if I have to drive somewhere, it's like, how long is it going to take? 7 hours. I'm like, four is sort of my cutoff point. But you know what happens, Craig, if you go on a road trip with me? your ass is going to Buc-ee's. And that's always an enjoyable experience, unless you're Willie Donick, who hates Buc-ee's and never goes for some reason. 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on LeBron James finally making yet another decision. He claims it's his last decision, signing with the Philadelphia 76ers as he looks for yet another NBA title. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, Chad Withrow will join the program. He and our friend Jonathan Hutton were down at SEC Media Days this week in Tampa. I want the hot gossip. I want to know what Chad Withrow saw and heard during his time at SEC Media Days. We'll get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Today, the Nashville Sounds take on the Sugarland Space Cowboys. First pitch is at 7:05. Catch all of the action on 94.9 The Fan. Presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, Maple Street Biscuit Company, and Social Cantina. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Adam Vingan, Connor Nute here with you. Willie Donick, Derek Mason on vacation. One more day. They'll be back on Monday. The two of you, keep an eye on the theme of the music, okay?
This is Bowling for Soup 1985.
All right, keep that in mind.
Okay.
Let's go to our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Chad Withrow. First of all, Chad, congratulations on the launching of the Hutton and Withrow show. Very excited to see you and Hutton back doing your thing.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. We're excited to get things rolling here very soon. It was nice to kind of roll out the red carpet of the show and launch some content from SEC Media Days this past week. So I appreciate that.
So let's talk about SEC Media Days. First of all, very strange that SEC Media Days was in Tampa. I love Tampa. My in-laws live in Tampa. I could spend a lot of time in Tampa, but the SEC has no footprint in Tampa. So tell me what the vibe was for SEC Media Days. I know it's a media construction. There's not a lot going on for fans necessarily at SEC Media Days, but it was at least to me, a strange choice for a location for SEC Media Days.
Yeah, I think the only thing stranger than Tampa was when they did it in Dallas that one year.
Yes.
And I wasn't there, but everyone who was, even some of my buddies that are in the media in Texas said it was an awful decision. And it was by far the worst media days they had attended when it was in Dallas. It was strange. I mean, I go way back with this event. I think the first one I attended was 2005, and I've been to a ton of them since. But, you know, the old Winfrey Hotel in Hoover, Alabama, and waking up the morning that Alabama had their day with the media and going into the lobby where you're doing your radio show from a hallway that connects to a mall, and you've just got Alabama fans roaming around the place like crazy, trying to get an autograph of you know, Nick Saban when he takes over, or gosh, it was Mike Shula in the beginning at Alabama when I started. It's such a different vibe now that there are no fans. You know, there's no SEC fans really hanging out in the lobby. I saw maybe 5 to 10 all weekend. You know, a big deal is when John Daly is rolling around with Arkansas for some reason. And it's just very, you know, in and out for these coaches. They don't really have to do anything. I think we ended up interviewing maybe 6 or 7 of the coaches, which is by far the most we've had between me and Hutton in many years. But, I mean, most of those guys, they're not going to Digital Drive where they put all the radio and digital shows. So it's just a very different vibe at SEC Media Days. And add in the fact that, like you said, Tampa, great town, but not exactly the biggest SEC town. It makes for a strange connection.
Well, the good news is SEC Media Days will be back in Nashville this time next year. But Chad, as you said, you and Hutton were at SEC Media Days all week. You talked to a lot of coaches. You talked to players. You heard all of the coaches give their state of the program addresses. But I want the hot gossip, Chad. I want to know the most interesting thing you saw or overheard during your time there.
Well, there was, I don't know if you guys read the story from Awful Announcing, but I didn't happen to see it, but I was kind of in the hallway right after it happened. Legend, who's a caller to the Paul Feinberg
I saw
show,
this.
got like screamed at and kicked out of there's a big lobby in this Tampa, and you probably stayed there, Adam, but that Marriott downtown Tampa, you know, a block away from the hockey arena.
Yes, I have stayed there.
They have that big, nice kind of Art Deco lobby. And then there's a second floor where like some people would kind of hang around, and a lot of TV people, local TV people would go and interview someone. Well, Legend was fairly hanging out there interviewing people, and he got the boot from Craig Pinkerton of the SEC, which that was pretty funny. Josh Pate joining ESPN was kind of a poorly kept secret. I'd heard about that for a while. And then I think on late Thursday of SEC Media Days, that news breaks where he's going to host a show with Bussin' with the Boys, Taylor Lewan and Will Compton. So that was some of the scuttlebutt down there. I mean, other than that, I thought Pete Golding won the press conference. I thought that he made the most sense and did as well and seemed as honest as anyone in his main podium time, talking about the hypocrisy of people calling out tampering and what's going on in college football, and even admitting it's not the most moral of sports when you go back to the history of how players have been recruited. I thought it was very open and honest. And I had a chance to interview Ryan Silverfield, the former Memphis head coach who's now at Arkansas. He was hilarious. No one's talking about Arkansas or him, but I really had a good time talking some ball with Ryan Silverfield. So that's sort of the gossip. That's the page 6 report for you. from down in Tampa. The biggest thing was Legend getting kicked out of the lobby.
I did see that. I did get a kick out of that. Chad Withrow from the new Hutton and Withrow show is with us. So, Chad, yesterday was the main, or I guess we could say Lane event. Lane Kiffin addressing the room as LSU's coach for the first time. Brett McMurphy tracked his opening statement at 2,807 words. He did not leave a lot of time for questions, and I'm sure he did that on purpose. And I saw the stuff about Kiffin giving up social media, and I'm all for self-improvement, okay? But do we actually believe Lane Kiffin is a changed man in any way, shape, or form?
Absolutely not. I mean, Lane Kiffin is, look, other than, some weight loss and getting healthier and things like that, he's the same guy he was in 2009 after the one season with Tennessee when he bolted in the middle of the night and went to USC. Like that, he's always going to be that guy. He's always going to have that sort of personality. He's really just kind of a strange dude. I mean, if you've ever spent any time with Lane Kiffin and just talked to him one-on-one, he's a hard guy to have a conversation with. There's just a very strange vibe around him. Now, he's also a heck of a football coach, and he's a great offensive coach, and he's going to get a good staff, and he's going to attract good players wherever he goes. He did that going back to not just Tennessee and USC, but FAU and then Ole Miss, and we saw what he did there. Now he's going to do the same at LSU. And he acknowledges that he will be the villain of college football and that he's okay with that. But he said, hey, Coach Saban was a villain too. Well, Coach Saban was the villain after he started winning a lot, right? Like you're the villain right away of college football. And Nick Saban only kind of became the grandfather of college football after he didn't win a national title for a few years. And then it was okay, it's all right to maybe root for Nick Saban and to hope that he does well again. Lane Kiffin's going to be the villain throughout. People are going to take great joy in any LSU loss. And if they happen to be great in year one and make a run in the college football playoff, it's not going to make people – he's not going to win his way into being America's sweetheart. They're just going to hate him more for winning once that starts happening. But LSU fans don't care, and I don't blame them. That they want to be the villain as long as it means they're winning titles down in Baton Rouge.
We're talking to Chad Withrow. And Chad, I saw you tweet about this, but I'm curious to expand your opinion on this. What were your thoughts on the whole phone situation with John Summerall? Some reporter's phone went off, and he said, if you were on my football team, you'd be kicked out of the locker room. Do you think he overstepped his bounds, or was that just a sign of an intense, hard-ass coach?
Oh, the response to me saying that, that he shouldn't have done that, Summerall, is, oh my gosh, we are so weak as a society. Look at this soft guy in the media. And oh my gosh, this guy's never been in team sports and never been coached. Come on. First off, most of the people that are tweeting that to me, I will work you in any sport. Name it. I will gladly defeat you at anything. No problem, hands down. Also, this isn't a weakness thing. Like, to me, sometimes it's weaker to blow your top and lose your temper. And I know John Summerall didn't start, cursing at the guy and screaming and all that. I'm all for hard coaching. I'm all for accountability and coaches having set rules. But I just don't like it when you don't work for somebody who's a coach and they're lecturing you on something that was clearly an honest mistake. Now, if that reporter wanted to rib John Summerall or intentionally be difficult or try to get a rise out of him, and John Summerall wants to roast that reporter, have at it. I am all for that. If someone is intentionally defiant or doing something to irritate you, then that coach has the right to do whatever they want and lecture them and say whatever they want to that media member. I have no problem. But here's someone who, had a bad day because their phone went off. Should have been silenced, of course. My phone's always silent, so I always avoid that from happening. But, I mean, that reporter doesn't work for John Summerall. And these coaches also always want to talk about quick change and their players being poised. And if a turnover happens, there's a quick change. You better be ready to roll with it. Well, you do the same. Phone went off. What do you do? Keep answering your question. Keep going. It's fine. You don't have to make a mockery of the reporter who just happened to have a mistake happen when you were in the room. So, no, I didn't like it. But, hey, I like John Summerall. I think he's an honest dude. He's a guy who's kind of around my age. I feel like probably of the same temperament. We had him on our show before, and I really enjoyed talking to him. I think he'll do a good job at Florida. I guess I'm one of the few who didn't really like that moment from him.
Along similar lines, what'd you make of the Will Stein calling his shot the "because of me" comment? Was that arrogant or confident to you?
I loved it. I mean, look, if you're Will Stein and you're the youngest coach in the SEC, you've got to possess some swagger when you go to a place like Kentucky. So, and look, all he knows is himself. So I think what he's saying, and it does, when you take that one soundbite, it sounds like arrogance. But to me, it's just a self-assuredness that if you were to ask someone, well, hey, how do you know Kentucky football is going to be successful? Or why do you believe that? You're going to say, if you're Will Stein, well, I've been a success everywhere I've been. You know, every offense I've been a part of has been successful. So that's why we're going to be successful, because that's really all I know right now, right? So I get it from his perspective that, yeah, we're going to win and be successful because I'm here. And everywhere I've gone along the way, we've won and we've scored points. Because let's be honest, guys, you can't really say what you have in Kenny Minchie, who's never been a starting quarterback in college football. We don't know a ton about Kentucky's roster. They did well in the transfer portal and brought in some good guys. Their schedule is going to be very tough. So you haven't coached those guys in SEC games to know exactly how they're going to perform. But what you do know is what you've done in the past and what you plan on doing at Kentucky, and that's to go score a ton of points and dominate. So that's when Will Stein says, if we're going to be successful because of me, that's his only reference point, is himself and his own success. I loved it. I loved it from a first-year head coach. And I think that he is another guy that I've interviewed in the past that I think he's going to do a really nice job at Kentucky, especially growing up in that state and growing up a Wildcats fan.
Chad Withrow is with us, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this, Chad. Thoughts on David Gabriel George's headed to Knoxville? I know you and Vol Nation are probably super excited about that pick. What do you expect him to do in the Heupel scheme, and do you think he's worth the amount of money that they're paying for him?
You know, I think so. That's a great second question. I do think there's a debate to be had about money allocation on a roster. And if you're Josh Heupel, you know, should you go get, you know, two defensive tackles and an edge rusher with that money instead of investing that heavily at running back? I will make the counter argument that when it comes to this guy in your own state, that is such a national recruit and such a unique talent. Yeah, you spend the money, you spend whatever it takes to get him to Knoxville. Josh Heupel has had 1,000-yard rushers every year at Tennessee. The misconception about his offense is that it's just, you know, cut it loose, throw it deep every play, throw for 300 yards a game. I mean, it is a rush-based offense. They are constantly among the leaders in the SEC in running the football and some of the best at it. And they've done it with 3- and 4-star type guys. I mean, Dylan Sampson was a high 3-star, low 4-star type running back, and he was the MVP on offense in the SEC the last year in Knoxville. So now you take that and you say, what can you do with a 5-star plus talent in David Gabriel Georges, who will start right away? I think the best case scenario for Tennessee guys in this offense is Faison Brandon starts this year. I'm not even going to say a win total or any of that, but let's say the offense looks good, doesn't miss much of a beat, and he looks like his future is very bright, and he's going to be the guy. You're going to have a 2-year window there after that where you can pair Faison Brandon with David Gabriel Georges and possibly TK Keys, who's a 5-star freshman coming in. It's not often that Tennessee has had a 3-headed monster of all 5-star guys at quarterback, at receiver, and at running back. They could do that for multiple years because I think with the partnership with Adidas, these guys are signed to multiple years as an Adidas athlete as part of their time at Tennessee. So, look, you always got to be worried. I mean, we saw that with Nico Yamaleava. Guys can leave for whatever reason whenever they want. But I do think that with all 3 of those guys, there's a solid chance you get them for multiple years. And that's just not a luxury that Josh Heupel's had. He's started a new quarterback every year at Tennessee so far. And to have that possibility, I think, is very intriguing for Tennessee. And look, I think that dude would have dominated at Ohio State. I think he would have dominated at Mississippi State. I think he's going to dominate at Tennessee. And I think to see a guy of that talent in that offense is going to be a lot of fun to watch for Tennessee fans.
Chad, before we let you go, let's talk about a former college quarterback from here in Nashville. It was announced yesterday that Diego Pavia had been waived by the Baltimore Ravens. If you were advising Pavia, what would you suggest he do now?
I would suggest that he goes on podcasts and becomes a WWE superstar. I'm dead serious. I've said this throughout. Like, that guy's not an NFL quarterback. He is a WWE superstar. He's a YouTuber. I mean, he's a bare knuckle brawler. Like, I really think that his future is in trash talk. I don't think it's in being a starting quarterback in the NFL. So if I was his management or his agent, I would advise him to go start his own Bussin' with the Boys type podcast and start talking to everybody at WWE, because he'd be a hell of a professional wrestler.
Chad Withrow has been our guest on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. He joins us every Friday, and now you can listen to him and our friend Jonathan Hutton on the new Hutton and Withrow show weekday mornings. Chad, as always, a pleasure. We'll catch up next week.
Guys, always a blast talking to you. Have a great weekend.
You as well. 615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction to what Chad Withrow had to say. I do want to keep the conversation on Lane Kiffin for just a moment. We'll do that coming up next. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home with a $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
You know, I made a challenging decision and change. And I think as I look back to that, I thought I could find a way for everybody to understand. And now as I look back later on, that was never going to happen. And I made a decision that I changed jobs. And as I get older and I go through things and losing both parents, I I was actually talking to Ross Dellinger, and I kind of said something that might sound kind of funny to you, but I watched the Hulk Hogan special, and I realized something. I was like, we're all going to die. And so some of the things that we put importance on, we worry about, and what this person says and that, like, really aren't going to matter. And when I lost my dad, I started thinking that. And I really started thinking, when I grew up, there were two people that I thought just wouldn't die: my dad and Hulk Hogan. And then I watched that special and realized, like, Hulk Hogan died too. Like, there's no way Hulk Hogan was ever going to not wrestle and die. And he did. And so it just made me reflect really on, like, I can't be so concerned about little things and what people say and this, and you got to make decisions, you got to go with them. And you do things and you make really good decisions and you make poor decisions. And that was a poor usage of a term that I believe, just like many coaches that have been there for, was factual, but over the course of a long interview was bad timing and bad usage of the word. So it is what it is. I apologize when I said it, and moving on.
Did you catch all that?
It was a pretty interesting answer for please explain your comments that Ole Miss is racist.
That was a question. That was an answer from Lane Kiffin to a question about those comments he made in Vanity Fair about the difficulties of recruiting at Ole Miss because of Ole Miss's history. And we got Hulk Hogan in there, and one day we're all going to die. I mean, that is true. Lane Kiffin isn't lying. Also, I do want to clarify one thing, because I think I scared one of our listeners. I mentioned that Chad Withrow and Jonathan Hutton have a new show, the Hutton and Withrow Show, on weekday mornings, not on 102.5 The Game, on their YouTube channel. So
we do have a new show coming on 102.5, though.
We do? Do you want to announce it?
I think I can.
Go for it.
Starting next Monday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., I will be hosting a new show, which is kind of an old show, but we're bringing it back, called The Six.
Very scared. Nothing's changing here. Connor is doing The Six starting next Monday at 6, but the rest of our shows, Robbie and Rex Road, Next Man Up, Chase and Big Joe, DVD, we're all here. So I did not mean to scare you. Chad and Hutton are doing their own thing also on weekday mornings, and you can hear Chad Withrow with us every Friday, as you just did before the break. So Lane Kiffin, as I said, his opening statement at SEC Media Days, if I understand this correctly, every coach has 30 minutes to address reporters on their scheduled day at SEC Media Days. Lane Kiffin used, according to Brett McMurphy, 2,807 words in his opening statement. I believe that left time for 4 questions, and that was the answer to one of those questions, and it was an adventure. I'm going to ask the same question I asked Chad Withrow. Do we actually believe Lane Kiffin is a changed man? And I am all about self-improvement. And Lane Kiffin has done this a couple of times. But I want to read a passage from Pat Forty of SI.com. He wrote a column about Lane Kiffin following his day at SEC Media Days. Pat Forty writes, quote, "Here's the thing with personal growth Lane. Every time he allegedly achieves a new level of maturity, he undermines it by doing something to infuriate and alienate a new group of people. He continually needs a new chapter in his personal narrative because he keeps ending the previous chapter in controversy." So, Connor Nute, do we actually believe Lane Kiffin is a changed man? He's apparently off of social media as he begins his career at LSU. What do we make of the Lane Kiffin experience from SEC Media Days and as we look ahead to this season at LSU?
Absolutely not. I find it hilarious and also sad that he managed to completely victimize himself in that answer. If you listen, I mean, he says, "I apologized when it happened," which I need to do my research on if he actually did or not.
He did. I think he did release a statement back to Vanity Fair, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe ESPN or On3, one of those sites. He did put out a statement clarifying his remarks.
I just don't understand. This is the Lane Kiffin experience. When he gives an answer like that, he'll give you complete non sequiturs to kind of distract you, and then he'll bring it back, and it never actually feels like he answered anything. That was a perfect example of that. We started on, okay, I'll address the situation. I left for this job, blah, blah, blah. Then we get to, I watched the Hulk Hogan special, and I realized we're all going to die, including my dad. And then he comes back to, yeah, I said that. I apologize. Whatever. I don't understand it. And somehow, in his own tone, in his own conniving, evil ways, he makes himself to be the victim. Like, it genuinely amazes me how he can go through life playing the victim, knowing some of the things he's done. And look, I'm not condemning him to hell or anything like that, but what he did to Ole Miss was wrong. What he did at Tennessee was wrong. And I'm just convinced he'll never change. He's never going to change. And I think Chad put it perfectly when he said he's just a strange dude in general. Like, even his mannerisms, if you watch that press conference, he can't stay still. He doesn't look at the crowd. And I understand that. Maybe he has a fear of public speaking. I've had that before. But he is just a weird guy. And I'm never going to be convinced that he'll ever change as a person, because he thrives in the controversy, because it gets you talking about.
Is it fair to say, Connor, that this LSU Tiger will never change his stripes?
I think that is very fair.
Okay. But here's the thing also about Lane Kiffin that I find fascinating. He has never won a power conference championship as a coach. He has also never coached in a college football playoff game. Now, his team, the team he bailed on, was in the college football playoff, but he has never coached in a college football playoff game, if memory serves. But yet, all of these schools want him so badly. LSU has given him the keys to the kingdom, and it puts a lot of pressure on that program. And that is a program that's done a lot of winning, a storied college football program. But I'm wondering, I'm curious how this whole thing is going to go. One texter says on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, Kiffin will never change. What will happen first? LSU wins a title, or Kiffin finds a new dream job?
I'm going to go with the latter.
Where do you put LSU's chances of actually winning a college football title this season?
I mean, I can't necessarily do a percentage, because I don't really like percentages. It's guaranteeing things, and I don't agree with that. But in terms of where they rank in the SEC before the season starts, I would put them in the 3 to 6 range. Like, I think I told you the other day, Texas and Georgia are probably 1A and 1B. You could sway me one way or the other. Then I think you look at Ole Miss, honestly, you could compare them to LSU. They bring back so much, and you have a Heisman contender at quarterback in Trinidad Chambliss, and arguably the best running back in the nation in Keon Lacey. So they're comparable. Alabama, I think, is comparable to LSU. Oklahoma, I think, is comparable. So I would put them in like that 3 to 6 range, but I definitely wouldn't mark them as favorites in the SEC.
Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, and welcome in Mike. Mike, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yep, I'd just like to say that, you guys are attraction, Lane Kiffin. I love him. And I think he's going to be a great coach down there at LSU. I think he's going to win the SEC. And you know what? He's using his name because, hey, everybody pushed NIL. Players pushed it. Well, now he's pushing it. And I'm good for him. And so I hope he succeeds down there, and I hope he wins the SEC, and I hope he makes a boatload of money, because it's all about betting now. And guess what? Lane Kiffin, LSU, I'm betting on it.
Thank you, Mike. Mike, a fan of Lane Kiffin.
Thanks, Mike, I guess.
That's okay. People are allowed to have different opinions.
Sure.
But
that's a good promo.
Look, we're all addicted to the Lane Kiffin experience. We can't turn away from Lane Kiffin. As you said, he shows up to SEC Media Days every year looking like he just stepped off the set of Miami Vice. He's got a great tan. His collared shirt's unbuttoned a little bit more than the other coaches.
His daughter's not hard to look at.
Well,
I can say that. You can't.
well, I see what you did there. Don Johnson, Dakota Johnson. Is that what you were going for there?
No, but if I unintentionally did that, that's
Well,
awesome.
Don Johnson of Miami Vice, his daughter Dakota Johnson. She's a famous actress.
Yes, she is.
So, and I'll leave it at that. So I don't get myself in trouble. But you unintentionally made a good comparison there.
Look
Good
at
for you.
that.
Good for you, Connor.
What an accident.
My point is this. We were all waiting to hear from Lane Kiffin at SEC Media Days. That was the main event of the week, and he did not disappoint. And he relishes being the villain. We heard Chad Withrow say that. I completely agree. We need people like that in sports. We were talking about LeBron James at the beginning of the show. LeBron James has been a villain for most of his NBA career. And I at times, I think he has relished that. We need people like that in sports. We need those lightning rods. And no matter where Lane Kiffin goes, he will be a lightning rod, especially after his messy divorce from Ole Miss. He's going to LSU. That game in September, LSU at Ole Miss. Under normal circumstances, I would not watch that game. I will be watching that game in September because I want to see how Ole Miss welcomes back Lane Kiffin. We were talking about hostile homecomings earlier this week. That may top the list.
Yeah.
So love him or hate him, Lane Kiffin, he makes you watch. And this is yet another example of Lane Kiffin doing what Lane Kiffin does. He's the organ grinder here. We're dancing for Lane Kiffin. He knows how to play the game.
Yeah. He's the heel. He knows he's the heel. And you mentioned that game. That game is appointment television in week 3. 6:30 on ABC. I mean, they'll have game day there, I'm sure. Those dudes over in the Grove, I've been in the Grove many times. If you leave that place hungry and or a little bit drunk or not a little bit drunk, that's your fault. They're going to be drinking all day. They're going to be fired up. It's going to be incredible. I can't wait. But Lane Kiffin, like I said, he's never going to change. Credit to Mike, I guess, but I don't know how you can support that. But I think you're right, Adam. I think you need people like that in sports to hate. My childhood villain, you'll laugh at this because I'm sure you loved him. Grayson Allen was a childhood villain of mine.
How could you say that?
Oh, he wasn't controversial at all, was he? No, I mean, we need people like that because people love to hate that, and it gets the news and it gets the people going. It's provocative, as they say in Blades of Glory. So we need people like that. Lane Kiffin relishes in that. But that said, I don't have to like him, and I certainly don't.
One texter says, I cannot wait for LSU and Ole Miss to play. That makes 3 of us because Connor also agrees.
Magnolia
615-737-1025. Coming up next, our guy, Turron Davenport, ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter, is here. We'll spend the next hour talking Titans with our guy, TD, as the Titans prepare for training camp. First practice, if I'm not mistaken, Wednesday morning, less than 1 week away. We'll get into the Titans with TD coming up next. If you've got questions for Turron, get them in now. 615-737-1025. We will take them throughout the hour. And speaking of the Tennessee Titans, our football offseason coverage here on 1025 The Game is presented by Tennessee Brewworks and Parman Tractor and Equipment. Parman Tractor and Equipment, providing totally outrageous customer service. Visit parmantractor.com. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5. The Game, Adam Vingan, Connor Nute, Brandon Bigsby, Turron Davenport, ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter, is in studio with us for the next hour, talking Titans.
in the back end. They work so much together. And if those guys could give Jeffrey Simmons and Franklin Myers and the crew a little bit more time, maybe those pressures that they seem to get a lot will turn into sacks.
And the second question, what is the most interesting storyline to you specifically?
It's the Carnell Tate situation. I really firmly believe he's going to be a star.
York in terms of what we should expect for Carnell Tate's usage under Brian Daboll this season in Tennessee.
Yeah, man. Did you read my preview?
I did. I need to go back and read it again, I guess.
No. So basically, what I've highlighted in there is Daboll's willingness, because you have some coaches where they don't want to let a rookie shine. Like the rookie has. It's not they don't want to let. They're a little more hesitant to trust a rookie quickly. Daboll's not like that. And if you look at the situation with Malik Neighbors, now mind you, you had Wandale Robinson getting 140 targets also.
Yes.
But if you look at the number, right, he dialed up 170 targets for Malik Neighbors as a rookie. That shows you right there that, look, if he believes in you, you're going to get opportunities. And that's targets. That's not to mention like how many plays were probably called for him that didn't go that way, right? Because the defense took it away, whatever. So, yes, there is something you could draw from that, and that's the willingness to use a young player and feature said young player.
If you've got questions for Turron Davenport, 615-737-1025. Let's start with James in Ashland City on our phone line. James, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, Turron, every time I get a chance to talk to you, I always repeat the fact that you're one of my favorite guests that comes on, and that's been the case ever since you've been covering the Titans. I think
thanks, Jay.
Just a great individual, what you do. I want to get that. Let's get that right.
Appreciate you.
My question I have for you is number one, other than Carnell Tate, which of these rookies do you see and you think is going to make the biggest impact on this first season? And my second question is, how concerned are you that the offensive line is not improving at the rate that it should be and the rate that the fans expect it? And I'll hang up and listen. And hey, guys, have a great weekend. Love your show. It gets me to work every night. And I'll talk to you sometime down the line.
Thank you, James.
Yes, sir, James. Those are a few good ones. So the first one was which rookie, correct?
Outside of Carnell Tate.
Outside of Tate. I'm torn between Keldrick Falk and Anthony Hill Jr. I think Hill Jr. is going to, down the line, eventually take over for Cody Barton, but I think that might take some time. So I'm going to go with Keldrick Falk. And the reason being is they're playing with him, working him inside and outside. Getting that length is something a little bit different from what these guards are used to on the interior. And then I put a lot of stock in three guys in his development. Jacob Martin,
Yep,
the veteran, and Connor, because we stand over there and we watch those guys work. Tanzel Smart and Aaron Whitecott.
Oh yeah,
and you watch the things that they do. We've posted some of the things pre-practice that they do, but what I really love about it is you're seeing it go from that period before practice to individual period, and then to 11 on 11 to team period. Keldrick Falk has used some of the things that he was taught by Jacob Martin, Tanzel.
Is Schlotman. And Schlotman is an experienced player. I know he doesn't have a ton of starting experience or consistent starting experience. Cordell Volson coming in, correct me if I'm wrong, TD, missed all of last season because of injury. Just because of, for as long as you've been here covering the team and for many years before that, the offensive line has been a question every summer. We're talking about it now like we did the year before that and the year before that. So
Yeah.
Are you at all surprised by how the Titans went about addressing the offensive line, knowing the deficiencies on that line?
Yeah, going back to, I would say 2020 was probably the last year where it was like, all right, O-line is solid.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And it was still all five positions weren't solid. You still had the question marks about right tackle. But, yeah, I mean, look, I was a little surprised they didn't go a little bit harder in free agency. I mean, you look at some of the guys that were available. I know Tyler Biotis was one. I was surprised they didn't go after him. I know Dylan Parham was a guy that his name was floating around the building. Whatever happened there, I don't know. But to come away with this degree of uncertainty at center was really surprising. But there's obviously some, familiarity with Sloatman. But then I think you also have to look at not only Pat Coogan, but you also have to look at the free agent that they signed, who spent some time with White Cotton there in with the Raiders. And he's actually the most experienced. And we talked about this in the preview. Andre James is the most experienced center on the team. But then you look at the right guard situation, and it's like, okay, Jackson Slater's a 6th-round pick from last year. He had a solid camp. He had a decent game when Zeitler went out against the Jaguars and he went in, but there's question marks there. And then on top of that, he's next to the ultimate question mark on the offensive line, and that's J.C. Latham.
Oh, yeah.
And we know J.C. was placed on the PUP list. Folks, relax. He could be pulled off at any time. There's an injury he was dealing with during minicamp and OTAs that has lingered. And look, at some point he'll be pulled off. But when he is pulled off, he needs to show and prove. Because you should not have 2 top 10 picks on that offensive line and have the questions that are lingering with this group.
One of the most interesting things I'm looking forward to seeing next week, TD, is I think if you look at it, you have 2 players at 2 positions that they've never played at the NFL level going up against each other. You've got Carnell Tate, obviously, playing that outside receiver role in the NFL. And then you have Alontae Taylor on the outside, and they've paid him to be a cornerback 1 to play on the outside, and I'm curious to see how he does it. Do you think that's beneficial for those 2 to be matched up against each other in practice like that?
Well, I think Tate's going to be fine. I mean, he played a lot of X at Ohio State. I think when you look at what he's going to be asked to do, I don't think there'll be any hiccups there.
Yeah,
Taylor, that's the interesting one, and it just surprised me that they signed him to play on the outside. I thought he would be their nickel. He was an outstanding nickel. Now, when I talked to, his name completely slips my mind. The Saints head coach. The former quarterback of Boise.
Yeah,
I hate when this happens. Former
Moore?
Kellen Moore.
Yes,
right.
That's your guy.
Yes.
Kellen Moore.
It should have come up quicker.
When
than
I
that.
talked to Kellen Moore, he was like, well, no, I mean, this is a guy that could play inside and outside. He was inside for us because more personnel, and that's where he fit for us, but he could do both. So you do have that. But I think just that iron sharpens iron, that one-on-one matchup, that's going to be good for both of them. You saw what Taylor said already. He's like, man, I didn't know he had that in the bag. He put a move on me. I was like, oh, you got that in your bag already? So you do have that. And that goes back to what I was saying about the polish and the advanced ability that Carnell Tate has. I think that's something that's going to really come to surface as you're watching him in camp.
What do you make of what you do have at nickel? You're probably going to run Marcus Harris at that position.
I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
I've always been a Marcus Harris. Hey, he's all right guy. You know what I mean? There might be some issues like with him carrying vertical routes, you know what I'm saying? But, you could fix your coverage to that bracket, whatever. But I think when you look at Marcus Harris, if I was him, I would have Logan Ryan and Rondé Barber on speed dial. Because a lot of the things that you're going to see with him, especially from a blitzing perspective, is similar to what was asked of those guys. And those guys, are top tier when it comes to timing the snap and getting off that edge and getting back there quickly and sealing the deal. Logan Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, I have to check it. I want to say he had 5 sacks one year with the Titans, and we know Rondé Barber has the most out of any nickel corner in the history of the game.
Yeah.
So, those are 2 things. But, yeah, I think Marcus Harris is solid. I think he's going to be fine.
Logan Ryan had 4.5 sacks in 2019.
Yeah, so.
Pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean, that was a year. I remember that year, man. He was coming off the edge all the time. Dean Pease was really letting him get busy. So I look forward to that. I can't wait to see how Marcus Harris is able to do that. And he's solid from a coverage perspective. He's one of the bigger nickels Robert Saleh has worked with. His guy last year, Upton Stout, we're talking like 5'8", 5'9", 185. Marcus Harris is bigger than that. He's probably legit 5'11", 6 feet. and I would venture to say right around 200.
615-737-1025. Turron Davenport in studio with us. And whenever Turron Davenport joins the program, he is presented by Bart Durham Injury Law. If you've got a question for TD, call us, text us, 615-737-1025. Coming up next, I'm going to put TD on the spot a little bit as we prepare for Titans training camp next week. 615-737-1025. Connor Nute, Turron Davenport, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5. The Game. Adam Vingan, Connor Nute, Turron Davenport in studio with us until the top of the hour.
I figured it out.
You did?
I
All
figured
right.
this is pre-2000s dates.
It's, well, that's a good guess.
Was that the theme to the music?
Yeah.
The theme.
Yeah, this is definitely pre-2000.
It's a good guess because so far we've played 1985 by Bowlings for Soup, 1979 by the Smashing Pumpkins, and now 1999 by Prince. But the actual theme is just songs with a year in the title.
Okay.
I appreciate you going a little bit deeper.
He took it the next step.
I oversimplified.
I'll give you extra credit for that.
I remember
That's
that
good.
song came out, and I remember like getting towards the millennium,
yes.
and everybody's like,
Y2K.
God.
Oh my God. All of the computers will
laptops
crash.
the computers are going to crash, and I'm like, okay, good. Maybe some stuff that you know what I mean, but it didn't happen. So,
I wasn't here.
I know.
I was like 4 years later.
It's okay. Yeah, young, pump.
I mean, I think I was a little nervous, like, oh my God, the countdown was happening, and I thought when we hit 2, 1, like the power would go out all across the country, and the banks would lose all the money. But we survived. 26 years later, we are deep into the new millennium. All right.
Do you remember the Charlie Steiner This is Sports Center commercial where he's like got a lantern, he's like, follow me to freedom?
Yes.
Yes.
And he got his tie tied around his head like a bandana.
Yes, I do.
Charlie Steiner was actually, quick thing, outside of Stuart Scott, who was obviously everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
Charlie Steiner was my dude on Sports Center. I used to love him. That one where I think it was he and Carl Ravitch. They started laughing because Charlie Steiner was in the middle. Look it up. Just Charlie Steiner, ESPN laugh. If you want to just like laugh, just unstoppably to make up a word, look that up.
I think for me, the Sports Center team that I remember most vividly when I was younger was Rich Eisen and Stuart Scott.
Yeah.
They were the A team for me. Also Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann for people who are a little bit older. But for me, it was Eisen and Scott. That was the A team for me on Sports Center. Quickly, Turron, I did want to get your opinion on this. Apparently, DeAndre Hopkins is with the New England Patriots to open training camp with Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
Considering a coaching career. What do you think about DeAndre Hopkins as a potential coach?
Listen, I don't remember seeing him do a lot of work with the younger receivers. I remember hearing them say, hey, he showed me this, that, and the third. But you talk about a wealth of knowledge and the ability to understand leverage and angles and things like that, because like Carnell Tate, DeAndre Hopkins was not someone you just look at and be like, oh. But one thing that dude knew, and I told him this, I said, man, you're the Dennis Rodman of wide receivers. And he was cracking up. And I said, I know you played ball at Clemson. I know you play basketball, so I'm sure you'll understand that correlation. But like that's the way it was, man. So being able to understand and teach that is good. But I mean, he'll be working with Todd Downing as well, as one of his assistants. I don't know. It's just you could have all the knowledge, but the ability to dish it out and disseminate it to someone else, that's an art in itself.
Joel also wants your thoughts on LeBron James going to Philadelphia.
Hey, man. I'm happy. This is what I wanted to see. LeBron is there, and I think when you look at it, I joked about the Beijing, the stock in Beijing. I'm ready to get some because I forgot about Jaylen Brown too. Beijing, folks, that's the dye, the black dye that you'll see some of the older folks put in their hair. We used to do it when we were young too. We put it on our hair to make it jet black. But I think it's great for the city, and I think it's great for LeBron too, because this is a really solid way where he could go out with a bang. It's been 40 plus, I think 43, I want to say 44 years since the city has won a championship. Because you had the Sixers in 83, since the Sixers have won a championship.
Yep, 1983.
So you could become a legend, really become a legend.
So Turron, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit as we prepare for Titans training camp. Let's call it the Turron Davenport pressure index.
Hmm.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. Which players are facing, and you know what, we're going to throw coaches into this too. Which players / coaches are facing the most pressure as training camp starts? You can go from 1 to 5, 1 being the most pressure. If you want to build the suspense, you can go from 5 to 1. I'll give you that option. But I want Turron Davenport's Titans training camp pressure index. Which players / coaches are facing the most pressure as camp starts?
Cam Ward, Brian Dable, Shea Tierney are facing the most pressure.
Okay.
I think
Tied for first?
Yes, I think they're at a 4.
Okay.
Because you need the quarterback to show and prove immediately. Dable was brought in specifically for that.
And
you
Shea
brought
Tierney is the
Tierney
quarterback's
with him to
coach, right?
Boom, boom. Right. So after that, I'm going to go J.C. Latham at a 4.
Okay.
He has to show that he could be a legit player consistently in the league. From there, for me, the pressure meter isn't really high for us. I'll say Jermaine Johnson.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. Jermaine Johnson, Tajay Spears. They're playing for a second deal, another deal. I know Tony Pollard is too, but Pollard honestly is not a guy that I would think they'll bring back regardless, unless he goes for $1,700. You know what I mean? Which we know isn't likely to happen. So I would say those guys. That's where the pressure is. After that it's. I don't think Salah's under pressure. I don't think there's pressure under Salah. Obviously, he wants to start out strong, but he's going to get 2 to 3. He's going to get 3 years. Like he's going to get time to turn it around. I believe so, unless like they go like the Cleveland Browns 0-17. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But so that's my pressure meter.
On Robert Saleh, you know better than most, Turron, that the New York Jets as an organization, they're a bit of a mess historically. Yeah. And Robert Saleh did not escape that during his tenure as head coach of the New York Jets over what, 3+ years, right?
Yep.
Fired in year 4, if memory serves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering
4 games into it, I think.
I'm wondering what your read is on Robert Saleh as you've gotten to know him and how you think he'll do in his second act as an NFL head coach now that he is removed. Look, the Titans have their own sort of dysfunction, but I don't think it's on the same level as the New York Jets. Now that he's out of that organization, how do you expect his second act to go here?
I think it's going to go well. I'm not going to say, hey, Super Bowl or nothing like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the playoffs next year. I think it's going to go well. And I mean, just in talking to him, and this is even conversations, you know, that we had not in press conferences, just in, you know, at events, owners meetings, combine, you know, and then even doing the Father's Day story. He's learned a lot from that situation with the Jets. And it's one of those things where it's like, I know the key for him is getting that quarterback situation right. He can do the other stuff. He's already shown it, right? The defense, top 3 defense.
Yeah.
He's already shown, like, he could do that. He has to figure out how to get the quarterback situation right. And, I mean, there were circumstances in New York, but I think that's the big thing. But then also, and he said it, his first presser, you know, learning to get to know the whole roster, both sides of the ball. And you see him, OTAs, minicamp, going through, shaking hands with all 90. You know what I mean? That's the example of how he's learned. So I think it's going to go well for him, but you say, okay, well, how well? I say playoffs. I think the Titans will be a competitive team again within the next 2 years.
How much of an eye should we keep on Jeffrey Simmons and his, you know, Salah's talked about the percentage of time he's going to spend on the field is going to be a little bit less than it was last year, but I don't think it's going to be too significant, but I'm curious of your thoughts. How much of an eye should we keep on that as training camp gets underway?
Yeah, I look in camp. That's something to watch. I would watch just how many straight plays he goes.
Yeah.
In a period, right? So if he goes 5 to 6 straight plays, I would be surprised. I think it's going to be 3 to 4, and then they'll rotate him out But then at the same time, you know, a lot of guys in camp, they don't use it to get in shape. That's not what they do anymore. But they use it just to get their conditioning, to get to make up that little bit of that little gap from coming to camp in shape to being in game shape for an actual game. And we know they're not going to play that much in preseason games. So these, especially the joint practices, how many reps is he getting in a row? That's something to watch.
Sure. Yeah. I'm interested to see. We've talked a lot about Aaron Whitecotton today, and rightfully so. Just go watch him coach.
Really
He's
good coach.
unbelievable to watch. But I'm just really curious about the edge rusher room. And it's a deep room, but I wouldn't say it's, overly talented compared to other teams across the league. But
Yeah.
I'm specifically interested in Keldrick Falk and Jermaine Johnson. Those are the two that I think could possibly see the most run. And they're going to have bigger eyes on them in training camp, at least for me specifically. I'm just curious, what kind of production do you think they need to show in training camp to have a hot momentum riding into the season?
Well, I think Jermaine Johnson has to get, I would say, in the 8-sack range.
Okay.
That's almost mandatory for him because he's trying to parlay into another deal.
I think that's fair.
Honestly, the goal should be double-digit sacks, right? But, I mean, you shoot for that, you settle in at 8, I think you're in a good area. Falk, to me, I don't put a number goal on Falk. I put if I were Whitecotton and Tanzo Smart, I would chart his snaps and say, okay, what's the percentage of snaps where your pad level is low? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would isolate the ones where his pad level was low that had results. Because then it's like, this is what happens when your pad level is right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But this is what happens when it's high. You can show them getting jacked up by, you name it, left tackle. You know what I mean? So I think those two are important. But again, I'm going to continue to say it. Jacob Martin is a guy to watch. Yeah. And I watched. You remember actually that Tuesday at minicamp. You remember he
That's right.
And Falk, like they were getting in there over and over again. So
Jalen Harrell was too that day.
And Jalen Harrell, don't forget it, but Jalen Harrell is a nice pass rusher.
I like him.
He has an outside chance to be a big part of this rotation too. I don't think an outside chance. I think he makes the roster. I think he's going to be, a part of the rotation.
Of course, Turron, when we talk about Cam Ward, one thing that always comes up is his accuracy. And it's not something, it's not something that can simply be tracked by completion percentage. If you dig under the hood a little bit, any way you want to look at it, Cam Ward's accuracy was an issue last season. People will look back to Brian Daboll's experience with Josh Allen and how amazingly Josh Allen improved his completion percentage.
Mm-hmm.
How realistic do you think significant improvement can be for Cam Ward in that area? Not just because of now he's got better, I would argue, better pass catchers at his disposal than he did a year ago. Certainly more experienced pass catchers. You've got Carnell Tate, who famously didn't drop passes in college, but just accuracy as a whole. What is reasonable to expect for Cam Ward improving in that area?
Well, I think the first thing it comes down to, and you saw Bo Hardigree in the quarterbacks, where he was saying, take the layups.
Right.
Right. And he was like, once you learn to take the layups, it'll be so beeping easy. And he's right. Now, that's an example of increasing your completion percentage.
Right.
But not necessarily increasing your accuracy.
That's my point, yeah.
I think really what it comes down to, and that's ultimately the question I asked Shane Tierney, and he talked about drill work and working to get the footwork right so that way it's timed up with the receivers, and when he's at the top of the drop, the receivers are about to make that break and he could throw. I think that's the big thing, is getting him comfortable in that offense. I think it can get better. Me personally, I know there are some issues with his down the field passing, but when it comes to throwing that deep over route, when it comes to those corner routes and those types of things, he throws that really well. The seams is just a matter of learning to put a little more touch on it instead of throwing the heaters, right? And it becomes more of, as he would say, a seed, right? So you want to be able to do that. I think he could get better in that area, but it's really going to come with just the confidence that he's able to develop. And for him, there's throws that he makes, and you're like, no, 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 no. Oh, wow, that was actually a good play. Right. And so you don't want to coach that out of him, but you want to coach him to, like I said, make the easy throws too. And that'll help the accuracy and make him more able to get into a rhythm and pass better.
615-737-1025. Turron Davenport with us for one more segment as we preview Titans training camp. It kicks off next week. 615-737-1025. I know I'm stealing this from Jake Lyman, but ask TD if you've got a question for Turron Davenport. Now is the time. 615-737-1025. You can call or text. Again, that number, 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up the hour with TD. Coming up next, Connor Nute, Turron Davenport, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan and Donick, 1025. The Game, Connor Nute, Adam Vingan, Turron Davenport with us for one more segment. Continuing my theme of the day, songs with years in the title. I thought TD would appreciate this one.
Yeah, I never realized it had a year in the title.
I think it's a parenthetical title, December of 63.
Okay.
So I'm gonna count that.
It still works.
I'm gonna count that. So Turron, by the way, if you have a question for Turron, 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com. Turron will be with us until the top of the hour. As we were going through your training camp pressure index, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was one name I didn't hear in there that I'm curious about, Alec Iamaner. I'm wondering about his role on the team now that Carnell Tate is here, Wan'Dale Robinson is here, Calvin Ridley is back and healthy. Chim Dike healthy. I was combining. I was combining Chim Dike and healthy at the same time. So Calvin Ridley being healthy, Chim Dike, of course, being an All-Pro returner, so he has a role. I'm wondering where you put Alec Iamaner in the wide receiver pecking order as training camp opens.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything with Iamaner as far as pressure is concerned. I think he, settles in like the fourth or fifth receiver. He'll be a guy. I would imagine he'll get some red zone opportunities because his combat catchability. But I mean, he's in a situation where it's like there's not much expected from him. So I can't really say that there's pressure. Now, I guarantee you he's putting pressure upon himself because I know for a fact as a competitor, I would be like, oh, y'all drafted Carnell Tate and you signed Wan'Dale Robinson? Okay, I'm going to show you I could play too. And I would imagine that's what he's thinking too. And it's not to take anything away from those guys. He just wants to prove himself as well. And that's the way I look at that. I really think that there isn't pressure on him. It's just going to be, hey, when the opportunities come my way, I got to cash in and make it happen.
4 months ago, Calvin Ridley restructured his deal with the Tennessee Titans. He's back and healthy this season, not healthy. I mean, healthy maybe becomes a thing, but he's healthy entering the season. Where do you think his mind is at? What are your expectations for Calvin Ridley now that he's not going to be the number one receiver on this team? And he knows that because I'm sure part of the deal of taking the restructured deal was I know that I'm not going to be Cam Ward's number one guy this season, but because he is a competitor, as you just said about Alec Iamaner, he has the experience of being a number one receiver. Where do you think Ridley's mind is at right now?
I think it's, hey, man, let me show you I still got it. I think that's what it is. Now, he cut his hair also. He cut the dreads off. So, take that for whatever you want, but it's interesting, Nugget. But I think when you look at him, he's a guy that could still play. I think there could be a renewed excitement working with Brian Daboll, who he worked with before, so that'll help. And, I mean, it's just cool when these guys are able to find a new reason to be challenged. And I think that's what it is because everybody wrote him off. Show him that, you still could play at a high level, maybe not as high as, the days with the Falcons, but you could still be a productive player.
What are you watching from Will Levis this training camp? I know he's not going to be the forefront of the storyline like he was 2 years ago as the starter, but I still think he's a relatively important player to watch just because of the role he could play on this team or maybe the role he plays on another team.
Yeah. Well, Will Levis, the main thing I'm going to watch is just like how he conducts himself.
Yeah.
2 years ago, like this guy, like, hey, if he plays his cards right, he's going to get a $200 million deal. And now it's like, if he plays his card right, he'll get traded to a team where he might have an opportunity. So I want to see how he handles that adjustment. I want to see, the decision-making because we saw the Will Levis experience, right?
Oh, yeah.
A really good throw. And then 2 plays later, it's like, come on, man. Not 2 plays later, but a series later, Mitch Trubisky takes him down to the 2-yard line. They bring Levis in. He throws a jump ball to Xavier Restrepo, and Micah Robinson goes up and picks it off, and that's how camp ended. You know what I mean? So that decision-making, how much does that improve? That's something because he has all the ability in the world. The only problem is the decision-making, and that is what he has to fix.
Have we heard from Will Levis?
No.
Do you anticipate hearing from Will Levis?
We've been angling for it for quite some time. I think towards at some point in the first week or so, hopefully, but we'll see. It's still in the works.
As someone who is familiar with the Brian Daboll system like Mitch Trubisky is, how much of a role should he be playing as a leader in that quarterback room, especially with Cam Ward trying to learn that system?
I think it's not as much as of a leader as a support system guy.
Yeah.
Right. And I think when Cam comes off the field, like Trubisky has to be right there. Hey, man, you know what I mean? I noticed this, or what happened. Like that's going to be his role. He's going to be in essence a coach in a uniform. You know what I mean? That's ready to come in if need be. You know what I mean? And that's really what it boils down to. So I think he should be a big part of it. He has to be that buffer between Tierney and Daboll and Cam Ward. And from what I understand, they have a very good relationship just as far as like that QB room. He spoke glowingly of everybody in there.
Yeah, I'm interested to watch him because there are days, and you know this from being out there, just like I do, there were days where I thought he looked better than Cam Ward just in terms of accuracy.
And operating the offense.
And but he's familiar with that. I mean, he's been a veteran. He's been quarterback one of the Bears. He did it with the Steelers too. He's been asked to go into situations with the Bills where Allen goes down. So I like that. I think he's a good support system for Cam Ward to have for sure.
I would keep him around as long as Daboll's around.
I agree.
I think that's perfect because he's just good enough to come in and if you need something, there's drop off. Don't get it twisted, but he's someone that could carry it, if need be. But he's not like a Kirk Cousins or I don't know, one of those types of guys where it's like, okay, we know he could come in and win for us, but we're trying to develop the quarterback,
Yeah. The Titans made a signing today, actually. They signed former Chiefs corner Najee Johnson.
Yeah.
He's not I don't think he's going to go in and, be an automatic contributor on your defense, but apparently he's a really standout special teamer. What kind of thing do you think he can provide to your special teams unit?
Well, I mean, I think on the gunner side of things, he'll help out there. I think he's also someone that gives you depth in the cornerback room. But, I mean, Micah Robinson played gunner too, and he actually has some nice plays the last 3 games at gunner. So, yeah, I mean, you add him in, you look at you got Lante Taylor, Josh Williams, Marcus Harris, Cordell Flott. That's 4. I think Najee Johnson and Michael Robinson. I wouldn't be surprised if they keep 6, maybe 7. I know Parker's guy, Keydre Callaghan.
That's his man.
That's his boy. That's his boy. He knows how to read those eyes. I'll say that.
Everyone's got one.
Yeah.
Jared Kelnick's mine.
Okay.
The mechanic.
The mechanic. Yeah, man. So look, man, I think he makes the roster and gives a special teams aspect, but it just makes me wonder, okay, how does that affect a guy like a Bryce Oliver? That's what I want to see because Oliver's a gunner and he's like the 5th or like the 6th receiver.
Turron, next week practice starts Wednesday morning, right? First practice?
Wednesday morning,
and we will all be waiting for your practice notes every day. We'll sift through them. It'll help us formulate what we talk about on this program as training camp gets started. As someone who has covered a lot of training camps, a lot of preseasons, I am curious for what you specifically look for as you are watching training camp practices to determine whether a team has improved. I know the Titans will have 3 separate joint practices, correct? 3 separate teams. I know joint practices are a big indicator of how a team is, but in your experience watching training camp, what are some of the little things you look at as you are evaluating a team that tells you, yeah, I think they could be good. I think they could be bad. I think they improved here. I'm very curious for your process.
I look at penalties, right? That's something I look at a lot, like how many false starts and offsides, because that kind of tells me like where they are as far as focus is concerned. I look for conditioning, right? How many times do I see receivers running a go route and then coming back and playing the next snap? How many times do I see Tyjae Spears finishing a run to the end zone, right, which is something he always does. So those are some of the things I look at. Then when the pads come on, that's when you see a lot. I say, okay, is that guy that was real talkative and demonstrative and active in OTAs and minicamp the same guy now? Or is there a guy who comes a lot like Kevin Winston? You put the pads on and he comes alive. I mean, he's a live wire all the time. Like he was out there hitting people, Connor. You know this.
Yeah.
He was out there hitting people in minicamp. You know what I mean?
That Calvin Ridley hit that one day.
Yeah. So it's like you look for how guys come alive, but most importantly, I watch one-on-ones. That's my focal point, especially the O-line, D-line, and that lets me know. And the thing that I love about being able to watch a guy like Jeffrey Simmons, you could gauge, okay, where is Skoronski? And that's I got respect for Skoronski immediately because he was taking Jeffrey Simmons on and like taking him on, and I'm like, wow, I like this dude, man. Like he's about it, So I think those are some of the things that you look at.
Before we get you out of here, TD, what I appreciate and admire about the way that you cover the Titans and discuss the Titans is you are level-headed, which is hard to do sometimes in this business, especially when you're on sports talk radio. But you know as well as I do, there is going to be a storyline that is blown out of proportion at some point during Titans training camp. Give me your bold prediction. What is that storyline that gets blown out of proportion during Titans training camp?
Cam Ward is inaccurate.
Well, an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah.
So
either that or Xavier Restrepo's campaign to make the roster. That's gonna be that one always gets a lot.
Catch the strep, as some of his fans will say. Those strep throaters out there. We see you. Turron, we appreciate you coming in, helping us preview Titans training camp.
Sure.
You can hear Turron Davenport all over our station throughout the week. And of course, you can read his coverage of the Tennessee Titans on ESPN.com. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we talked a little bit about it with Chad Withrow during the first hour, but Connor wasn't here yesterday, so I want to ask this question, 615-737-1025, and maybe we'll have some fun with it. Wrong answers only. What's next for Diego Pavia? 615-737-1025. Connor Nute, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Adam Vingan, Connor Nute, and Brandon Bigsby here with you as we wrap up the week. We hope you are having a stress-free commute home for the weekend. As I said to start the show, if someone in front of you is not driving when the light turns green, give them 2 seconds and then give them a quick burp, what I call the courtesy honk. Some of you don't believe in the courtesy honk. You think you just need to lay on the horn. But I'd like to pretend that I am a courteous, understanding driver for about 2 seconds. So if that happens on your way home, you have my permission. Connor, you were out yesterday. Right as we came on the air, the Baltimore Ravens announced that they have waived Diego Pavia. So Diego Pavia will not make it to training camp with the Baltimore Ravens. And I can't say I'm surprised. Pavia faced long odds to stick on an NFL roster, but it leads me to wonder what's next for Pavia. All right. And if you want to have fun with this, wrong answers only, 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com. One texter says Indiana Hoosiers football social media manager. That would be
I think he would fit that perfectly.
Quite the role for Diego Pavia. But there is something I have noticed on social media, and maybe it's that stupid algorithm, and I don't know why I'm getting this. But a lot of people seem to be taking pleasure in Diego Pavia. I don't want to go as far as to say washing out of the NFL. I mean, he was with the Ravens for a couple of months. He's not going to training camp. But a lot of people seem to be taking pleasure in Diego Pavia not making it to training camp with the Ravens, and I get it. All right. Diego Pavia, polarizing may be an understatement. But whether or not you like Diego Pavia, you can't deny how special of a season he had last season for Vanderbilt. He was the Heisman Trophy runner-up. I shared this stat earlier. Last season, Diego Pavia became the 5th SEC quarterback with 3,000 pass yards and 800 rush yards in one season. The other 4, Tim Tebow, Johnny Manziel, Dak Prescott, and Jaden Daniels. 3 Heisman Trophy winners in there. Tebow, Manziel, and Daniels. And we know how important Pavia was to Vanderbilt being where it is now. He left it a better place than he found it in 2 years. So I do wonder what's next for Pavia. There have been suggestions that he goes to the CFL, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I believe, own his rights. So if he wants to go to the CFL, at least it starts there. And I've been to Winnipeg. It's a nice little town.
Very cold.
It is very cold. It is definitely not Nashville, Tennessee. I will tell you that. It will be a bit of a culture shock if Diego Pavia decides to take up the Blue Bombers on their offer and play for Winnipeg of the CFL. There's the UFL, and apparently the league retweeted the announcement of his waiver by the Ravens with the eyes emoji.
They did. I screenshotted it yesterday to send it to people. It was funny.
So the UFL clearly interested. Chad Withrow, during the 3:00 hour, made the suggestion that Diego Pavia should pursue a career in podcasting, maybe taking the same route as Taylor Lewan and Will Compton, or trying his hand at professional wrestling.
He would be a great heel. I'll tell you that.
There are a lot of different ways Pavia can go about this. What would you suggest Pavia do next, Connor, now that he has been waived by the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, it depends on if you want my real answer or my funny answer. In all seriousness, I think you could hold out and wait for an NFL team to give you a call for training camp, because I think that's why the Ravens released him in the first place. They knew he wasn't going to be the answer for them to carry into training camp or even into the regular season. So they gave him the option of 31 other teams. So I think he could hold out, wait for the right team, maybe a call will come through his way. Maybe he can get the opportunity to showcase his talents at a training camp for another team. If not, the CFL might be a good option. They play the game very differently out there, but I heard Chase say this earlier too, but I think he could thrive in an arena league setting. He has the physical tools to do so. I mean, he can throw the ball, he can run, which you especially need to be able to do in an arena league. But ultimately, what I'm trying to say is I don't think being the starting quarterback in the NFL is ever going to be his option. I think it would be hilarious if he went to like the religious route and just became like a pastor or something like that.
I cannot envision that in my wildest dreams.
Oh, I can't either, but it would be so funny if he did.
That would qualify as wrong answers only. 615-737-1025. Wrong answers only. Let's have some fun with it. What's next for Diego Pavia? I saw Mike Florio suggest that Pavia could try to sue for another season in college football.
Oh, no.
I can't imagine that happening. I mean, look, weirder things have happened in college football.
Would he even go back to Vanderbilt in that case? Because I bet they would ride with Jared Curtis over him.
Yeah, I can't imagine him going back to Vanderbilt. Like if he were to take this route, which I don't think has any chance of happening, if he were to find himself with another year of college eligibility, I think he would have to go somewhere else. They've made the commitment to Jared Curtis. The wrestling thing is interesting to me. Look, and
you could make him the new Hornswoggle.
A couple of people, and you just mentioned it. A couple of people have mentioned that Diego Pavia, he's short. Okay, we get it. He's short, and that's part of the reason why he's not going to be an NFL quarterback. But WWE has made a push to target college athletes. They have some sort of program where college athletes can transition to the wrestling business after graduating, and we've seen examples of that working out quite well, such as Braun Breaker, Obafemi. But of course, those two are gargantuan, especially compared to Diego Pavia. But look, Pavia, he's got the bravado, and that's what I think he needs to take. That's what I think he needs to take advantage of. Love him or hate him, you want to hear what Diego Pavia has to say. We were talking about that with Lane Kiffin earlier in the program. I think Pavia, if he can find a way to harness that personality and become a talking head of some kind, I think that would be a good role for him. I think we saw it after he helped orchestrate the upset of Alabama a couple of seasons ago. He was all over TV, all over SportsCenter. Everybody wanted a piece of Diego Pavia, and I thought he handled it well. And when you're an analyst on TV, you need to be engaging. You need to be entertaining, even if the things you say are completely outlandish. And people liked to tease Diego Pavia last year at this time for telling, I think it was Paul Feinbaum, our goal is to win the national championship. Yeah, win the national championship at Vanderbilt. Are you kidding? They gave it a good run. Had the best season in program history. But I do think that a career in sports media, I think, is where he should probably go. If he is dead set on competing, I think the UFL would be a good spot for him, even the CFL. But I do think he should harness his personality and try to be a talking head for college football.
Yeah, I don't know if any major outlet would be willing to hire him right now, just because he's got a lot of maturing to do. But I could see him starting like a podcast, like a job.
Barstool Sports. Wouldn't you take a run at hiring Diego Pavia?
I would send the house on Diego Pavia.
I mean, if you're Barstool Sports, I mean, come on. Dave Portnoy, he's a New York Times bestselling author, for God's sakes, at this point. He's got more money than he knows what to do with. I feel like Diego Pavia would fit in swimmingly at Barstool Sports.
Oh,
yeah. That's sort of what I'm talking about. Like, I don't think Diego Pavia, one texter suggested that Diego Pavia can join the SEC network and complain about not winning the Heisman while sitting next to Tim Tebow. I can't imagine him being on SEC network.
Nope.
Like it's got to be an unconventional sort of place, like Barstool Sports, for example.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great landing spot.
Oh, he would fit in so well. Pat McAfee is about as renegade as ESPN is going to get.
Yeah.
Just because they tend to like their hosts and their talent pretty cookie cutter, or former professional athlete like Kendrick Perkins is. How funny would it be if he gets into like therapy and he becomes like a personal therapist for people? Like he masters his own potential and just becomes like the calmest guy of all time and then helps other people master their potential. I think that would be hilarious, personally.
I think one of the other professional leagues, either the CFL or the UFL, part of me thinks Diego Pavia will ultimately end up there, at least to start.
Yeah,
because I can't imagine Pavia being like, well, I'm not going to be an NFL player probably, so that's it for me. Like, I think he is going to ride this thing until the very end. Because one thing we learned about Diego Pavia during his time here in Nashville, don't tell him he can't do something. Because if you tell him he can't do something, he's going to work his ass off to try to do it. So if the NFL door is closed, I think he is going to try to break it open. And I think one way he can do that is by going to the CFL or the UFL. I don't know what the pay scales are there. So he's not going to get paid anywhere near what he would get paid in the NFL, but he'll make good money. And he would be, look, I don't pretend to watch the UFL or the CFL. I can name all of the CFL teams.
That's more than I can do.
I can't name any of the UFL teams.
I can name a few of those.
Maybe one or two. I'm pretty good at naming CFL teams. But I don't know who the stars of those leagues are. I don't know if they necessarily have stars. Again, I'm not someone who watches either league. So Diego Pavia, you put Diego Pavia in the UFL, you don't think those games are going to be all over TV? Like, I think he has an opportunity to be a star of one of these smaller leagues.
Not a TV in my house, I'll tell you that much. I don't really care. But I think Barstool is a perfect spot for him. You mentioned that one. I think he could fit in so well there. Just put him on a show with John Gruden and see how things go.
Well, they did one of those quarterback camp things together, and it was fascinating. I wanted to play some clips of it, but
not safe for air.
No. It would be like listening to an Eminem album 25 years ago, the edited version. You would hear like every fifth word. That's the level of discourse between John Gruden and Diego Pavia. Not safe for our consumption on these airwaves, but it was entertaining.
It was fun.
Also, John Gruden going to be doing play-by-play. Did I hear that correctly? For like at least one preseason game?
You did.
Why?
Because it's preseason football, and as much as I love football, preseason football is pretty meaningless to me. So
one thing I'm learning on the text line, a lot of you despise Diego Pavia. One texter says, wrong answer only. Personal security for Kevin Hart would make him look huge. Someone suggested he be a pool boy on a Telemundo soap opera, a little telenovela action for Diego Pavia. Dylan in Antioch says, does this make his mom a free agent too? I am banned from answering questions about Diego Pavia's mom.
Well, wherever he ends up, his family will probably end up too. So we know that about them. Should we pursue him since we lost out on the LeBron James sweepstakes?
Yes. Our friend Dustin says, bring him on 102.5 The Game. I would be happy to have Diego Pavia as our go-to, add him to our rotation as our go-to college football analyst. We've got Trevor Maddich on the show. Add Diego Pavia. I absolutely. One texter says, everyone says CFL, but his hero and mentor couldn't cut the mustard in the league. Do we know who that is?
Johnny Manziel.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. Diego needs to hone his media craft to become an analyst. I do think if Pavia, my guess is Pavia. Mike Piazza, Diego Pavia. I'm just stumbling all over.
Helfe and Pavia.
Well, you know what? I'm on vacation in 40 minutes, so I
Yeah.
think that's where my
You're
head is
phoning
right
it
now.
in.
I'm not phoning it in, but sometimes, words are hard. And when you talk on the air 15 hours a week, it can be a little bit difficult. I think Diego Pavia is going to ride his quarterbacking dreams until the wheels fall off, whether it's in the CFL or the UFL. I think he's going to try like hell to get onto another NFL team on a practice squad. And until he is denied and there are no more paths for him to the NFL, I think he will then pursue a media career. And it's very easy to sell Diego Pavia as a college football analyst. He is a Heisman Trophy runner-up. He had a season that few quarterbacks have ever had in the SEC, and you want to hear what he has to say. So I think Diego Pavia, I I think Diego Pavia would make a very good college football analyst. One texter says the Pavia haters must be UT fans because of the way he kicked their butt last year. I mean, there is certainly some of that. I mean, look, Vols fans, you can hate all you want, but Diego Pavia went into your house and he kicked that ass. And you're going to have to live with that because Diego Pavia is gone now. And who knows, maybe the tide will turn and Tennessee will get their comeuppance on Vanderbilt this season, but we'll always have Diego Pavia going to Neyland Stadium and kicking that ass. And that stings.
And it's a very special memory for some of us. I'm not even a fan of either one. That was enjoyable for me to watch.
That's very funny. 615-737-1025. Wrong answers only. What's next for Diego Pavia? Waived by the Baltimore Ravens. He could go to the CFL. It's as someone who has traveled to Winnipeg when I covered the Predators. Of course, I went to Winnipeg many, many times because the Jets are there. Covered the playoff series there. Winnipeg is a cool little town, but I cannot imagine myself living there. I remember several years ago when I would go on the road for every game. The Predators wrapped up a long road trip in Winnipeg, came home for a couple games, and then the following week went back to Winnipeg to start a road trip. So I was in Winnipeg on consecutive Thursdays in January.
How bundled were you?
Oh man. I had everything on that I could think of, and it was still minus 10 Fahrenheit once the sun went down.
Jeez.
So it's a lovely place. I think it gets a bad rap from people who travel the NHL. The Jets have a hard time getting free agents to go to Winnipeg. The idea of Diego Pavia in Winnipeg is worthy of a reality television show. I'm just telling you that now.
Oh,
based on my experience.
The Pavias.
Now, Diego Pavia's mom in Winnipeg. That's also worth a reality show. And that's all I'm going to say about Diego Pavia's mom. 615-737-1025. We'll take your wrong answers only. Plus, we'll continue our Titans conversation as well. Connor Nute, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5. The Game, Adam Vingan, Connor Nute here with you. Wrapping up the week. A big thank you to all of our Titans reporters guests this week. Terry McCormick, Nick Suss, Easton Freeze, and Turron Davenport helping us preview Titans training camp, which opens first practice Wednesday morning. Connor Nute, you will be out there. You will be representing the station along with Parker Kelly.
We shall.
As our Titans reporters this season, I've been asking all of these other people coming into the studio, Terry and Nick and Easton and Turron. I've been asking them what their most important camp storylines are. So let me ask you, as you prepare to cover your first training camp, what are the most important or intriguing camp storylines to you?
Consistency for Cam Ward is certainly one that comes to mind. Remember last June, everyone was freaking out because Cam Ward was inconsistent in an unpadded practice, which means he's absolutely an NFL bust. No, not actually. But I will be watching how many good days can Cam Ward string together, because I promise you people, there's going to be some bad days in there. Maybe not bad days, but some subpar days where he's not as good as other days. So consistency for Cam Ward is probably the main thing I'm looking for. But just like everyone else that's come through here, I'm looking at Carnell Tate. I'm excited to watch him in real NFL practices where he's padded and, you know, we can get a little more, to use a Robert Saleh term, fast and violent. The defense, I think TD made a very good point on today. How does this defense rally around Jeffrey Simmons in a practice like this? And especially once we get to joint practices with San Francisco, Seattle, and Chicago, I want to see best on best. I want to see how do the Titans ones look against ones across the league. That's exciting to me. But I mean, to answer your question, the most important thing to me that I'm looking for is consistency from Cam Ward.
I do wonder about Robert Saleh, and I don't think this is something you're going to learn during training camp. I think this is something you're going to learn over the course of the season. I mentioned it to Turron when he was in here in the previous hour that the New York Jets, if you think the Tennessee Titans are a dysfunctional franchise, and lately they have been, the New York Jets, they wear the crown. I mean, there have been reports about the owner of the team being influenced by his son telling him Madden ratings for trades. I think I'm recalling that correctly, and that sounds like an absurd sentence coming out of my mouth, but I believe that to be true. At least that's what was reported. I can find it. The New York Jets are the epitome of dysfunctional. The Titans are their own level of dysfunctional, but not on the Jets level. So I am curious how Robert Saleh adapts to being here in Nashville, getting a second chance as an NFL head coach. There will be, Turron says there is no pressure on Robert Saleh this season. I think TD said he thinks he's going to get at least 3 years.
I could see that, but I think if you're a head coach in the NFL, there's pressure on you every single year.
Of course. But he's out of the spotlight. And this is not meant to sound disrespectful to our wonderful city, but we're not New York City. The level of coverage, the level of attention, it's not the same. And I'm hopeful that Robert Saleh will learn from some of his experiences in New York. It sounds like Robert Saleh got a little bit too sucked into the way the team was covered and the perception of the team. Hopefully in his second act, he's not as concerned about that. Look, there aren't as many reporters, as many sports talk stations here in Nashville as there are in New York City. So maybe he doesn't have to worry about that as much. But I'm hoping that's something that he learned from during his time in New York. He will not bring it here. So I am curious to see how his transition is. I know one thing that's important to him is he's calling the defense this time around. Last time he did not call the defense in New York, and he said that he felt like it kept him out of the game. Like he wasn't as engrossed in the game because he wasn't calling the defense. He's going to be calling the defense. We heard Turron say that he's putting more effort into making sure he's overseeing all of the aspects of the team and not just the defense. So I don't know if you're really going to learn anything about Robert Saleh necessarily over the next month and a half, but it is a storyline that I will be tracking over the course of the season.
For sure. Robert Saleh, to me, you go across his history as being a head coach, I feel like he has the tendency to focus on non-football related things. Like, remember, you kind of alluded to it. Remember his tenure in the Jets where someone was leaking information inside the locker room about something, and he went up to the podium one day and said, "We are doing our damnedest to find whoever the mole is." And we were thinking, like, your team is not good. Shouldn't you be more focused on coaching that team? And then you could even point to the Titans beginning and the whole seed oil conversation. It's non-football things that he focuses on that get me not worried. Worried's not the word I'm looking for, but just it raises my alarm a little bit. It gets my attention, we'll say. But I don't want to take the TD route and say Robert Saleh has no pressure on him whatsoever, because I think there is a little bit of pressure from the fan base to come in and turn things around. It's not going to be a complete 180 like it was for the Patriots last year, but you expect some improving. And I think that is the pressure this season. I've been calling it a transitional year, and I call it that because can you take a 3-win team from last year and at least get it to some level of improvisation heading into a new stadium? Doesn't mean you have to make the playoffs. Doesn't mean you have to be Super Bowl contenders. But it does mean that you have to show some level of improvement over the next 17 weeks.
Scott in Shelbyville says, I mean, it's getting close. New York has lost congressional seats because so many people have moved out, and Nashville gets more people every day. We will be caught up with New York in a year or two. I mean, we will never be New York City, all right? In terms of population, all that, we will never be New York City. And that's okay. We're Nashville, and we like it that way. I mean, look, Robert Saleh had a 20-36 record as head coach of the New York Jets. That's a winning percentage of .357, which is the worst in Jets history, minimum of 40 games. I mean, that's bad. But again, we've pointed this out many, many times. The Jets started 6 different quarterbacks under Robert Saleh. Zach Wilson, 33 games. Mike White, 7 games. Aaron Rodgers, 6 games. Joe Flacco, 5 games. Trevor Siemian, 3 games. And yes, Tim Boyle, 2 games.
Titans legend.
I'm almost sort of surprised that he won 20 games with all of those quarterbacks. Kevin says, I think Saleh will be just fine in Nashville. He will be the next Jeff Fisher as far as success goes. Vrabel could have been that, but his ego as a Patriot guy and just being a meathead overall prevented that. I mean, I guess they don't make head coaching tenures like they used to across all sports, but definitely in the NFL. How many years did Jeff Fisher? He coached the Oilers/Titans for 17 years.
Yeah.
You don't see that anymore.
Well, loyalty as a trend in sports isn't the same. You can go across any sports. I mean, the perfect example of coaching loyalty is the NHL, right? You could start the year with one coach, fire him mid-season, and hire someone immediately.
Right.
Look at Vegas last year.
Mm-hmm.
They went through the entire season with Bruce Cassidy, fired him 3 weeks to go in the season, and bring in John Tortorella.
I don't know if it was even 3 weeks, to be honest with you. It may have been.
Yeah.
It may have been fewer than that.
Yeah.
If we're being honest, but I get your point. By the way, I did find the story that I was referencing with the Madden ratings, co-bylined by Diana Rossini.
Oh.
Here is part of that story. A few weeks later, I think this is Joe Douglas, who was the Jets general manager. I don't think he still is. A few weeks later, Joe Douglas and his Broncos counterpart George Patton were deep in negotiations for a trade that would have sent Jerry Jeudy to the New York Jets and given future Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers another potential playmaker. The Broncos felt a deal was near. Then abruptly, it all fell apart. In Denver's executive offices, they couldn't believe the reason why. Douglas told the Broncos that Woody Johnson, owner of the Jets, didn't want to make the trade because the owner felt Judy's player rating in Madden NFL, the popular video game, wasn't high enough, according to multiple league sources. The Broncos ultimately traded the receiver to the Browns. Last Sunday, Judy crossed the 1,000-yard receiving mark for the first time in his career. Also, Woody Johnson's son, his name is Brick.
Brick Johnson.
Brick Johnson. All righty then. But that's what I'm saying about the level of dysfunction. Say what you will about Amy Adams Strunk. And a lot of you have said a lot of things about Amy Adams Strunk. A lot of them fair. Some of them misogynist, but a lot of them fair. At least, to our knowledge, Amy Adams Strunk hasn't prevented a trade from happening because one of her children said, Madden rating's not high enough. So the level of dysfunction here in Nashville pales in comparison to the level of dysfunction with the New York Jets. So now that Robert Saleh is removed from that dysfunction, how much better of a coach can he be? And look, a lot of it hinges, of course, on Cam Ward. I read all of the quarterbacks that Robert Saleh had in New York. I think the only one you would take over Cam Ward is Aaron Rodgers, right? You're Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle. I say this all the time. Remember when Tim Boyle started preseason games for the Tennessee Titans?
That was fun.
Remember how bad Tim Boyle was in preseason games against like third stringers? Now imagine having to start Tim Boyle in an actual NFL regular season game. That's what Robert Saleh had to do, I think, twice.
I was covering camp that year. That was my first year covering camp. And even then, we saw him in preseason practices, and you're like, this guy sucks. Like, he's really bad. So I wasn't surprised.
One texter says, can we get a bell ring for misogynist? Sure. I really have been slacking on the word of the day. I will get back to that.
That's okay.
I will get back to
I
that.
will make sure that the two of them next week get back on word of the day.
I mean, I don't know if misogynist is really like an impressive word.
No, I mean,
if you don't know the definition, it's a person who hates or discriminates against women. So when you hear we get lots of texts about Amy Adams Strunk that cannot reach the airwaves because we would be in lots of different violations. So the Robert Saleh part of this is very interesting to me. Brian Daboll working with Cam Ward. Can he unlock Cam Ward the way he unlocked Josh Allen? Short answer, probably not, because as Nick Suss told us the other day, how much of that was really Brian Daboll? That's not to say that Brian Daboll didn't have an impact on Josh Allen becoming the quarterback he is today. But I think Josh Allen is just special. And Brian Daboll happened to be there, and he'll get some of the credit. I wonder about that relationship. The one thing I am confident about is that they now have a competent offensive coach calling the plays, unlike Brian Callahan and the mishmash of people who ended up calling plays right before Brian Callahan got fired and after Brian Callahan got fired. 615-737-1025. What are you most interested in as the Titans prepare for training camp? First practice next Wednesday, 5 days away. What are you going to be watching most closely as you read the reports about training camp? Of course, there are select training camp practices that you can attend. So let us know. 615-737-1025. One texter says, it's a 50-cent word for sexist. For sexist, I stand by it. I mean, okay. I'll give you another bell ring for misogynist. You learned something today. 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up the week by playing the game that's sweeping the station and one day the nation. That's Where Are They Now? It's coming up next. Connor Nute, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5. The Game. Adam Vingan, Connor Nute, Brandon Bigsby here with you, wrapping up the week. A big thank you to Connor Nute and Brandon Bigsby for hanging out with me this week with Willie and Derek on vacation. Willie and Derek will be back on Monday. I am off next week. So Willie, Derek, and Connor will have you for the beginning of Titans training camp. I will be back the following Monday. When I'm back, it'll be the first time in like 3 weeks that Willie, Derek, and I will all be on the show together. But I hope that Willie and Derek had a restful and relaxing vacation.
I miss those guys.
Yeah, I do too.
It's just studio feel nothing against anyone else here, but studio feels a little bit empty without them.
Yeah, it's a lot less athletic.
Yeah.
With Willie and Derek and their storied careers, both in college and in Derek's case, the pros. But I miss them. I know they're having a nice time on their respective vacations. They will be back Monday at 3:00. But before we get out of here for the week, it's time to play the game that is sweeping the station and one day the nation. That is, where are they now? And in case you haven't played along with us, here's how you play. You take an athlete, active or retired, in one of the 4 major sports leagues, NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL. You list their career path, the teams that this particular athlete played for. First person who guesses it gets the point. And Connor, as the creator of this game, you have implemented a new rule based on our playing of this game yesterday.
I have. Upon speaking with my correspondents in New York in events with yesterday, all 3 of you are victims of this, not just Adam. I will not single him out. We get a 3-guess rule now. We're no more of the it's not not Derek Mason.
If an athlete's name leaves your mouth, that is considered a guess.
Yes.
Okay.
I like that.
It's like an offsides penalty.
Okay, fair enough.
So mind your words.
All right. Let's start in the NBA.
Okay.
Here we go. Wait, let me see what team this is. I don't recognize. Okay, there we go. I was like, well, the Charlotte Hornets on the original Charlotte Hornets on Basketball References, CHH. So that's interesting.
Oh, okay.
All right. The Charlotte Hornets, the Chicago Bulls, the Indiana Pacers, the Sacramento Kings, the Chicago Bulls, the Houston Rockets, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot of teams.
Yes, he played for 6 different teams over a 14-year NBA career.
If it's the original Charlotte Hornets, this tells me this is a player from the 90s, or at least that's when he was drafted.
All right. Well, I will give you his draft year. Was he drafted? It doesn't look like he was drafted.
Oh.
I don't see a draft. I don't see a draft spot for him. But he began his career during the 1998-1999 season.
Okay. Then it's too early for the guy I was going to guess. A man who broke my heart.
Who's that?
Before I was born. No, I'm not going to say it.
Oh, yeah, because that would ruin one of your guesses. I want to make
tried to trick you.
I want to confirm. Yes, he went undrafted. Confirmed. He went undrafted, but yet had a 14-year NBA career. Do you need the teams again?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Charlotte, Chicago, Indiana, Sacramento, Chicago again, Houston, Minnesota.
Jalen Rose.
It is not Jalen Rose.
Ah.
Do you want the college?
Yes.
That would be beneficial, yes.
He was a Boilermaker.
Oh. A Boilermaker in the 90s.
Yes. And randomly, one of my favorite players, everyone has that random favorite player. He definitely counts as a random player in the NBA.
Yeah.
This one's got me.
All right.
Stumped.
Yeah, I'm stumped too.
Brad Miller.
Oh.
I wouldn't have gotten that.
I wouldn't have either, but I know that name.
Yes.
All right. Let's go to the ice.
All right.
Los Angeles Kings, Philadelphia Flyers, Nashville Predators, New Jersey Devils, Buffalo Sabres, Toronto
Wayne Simmons.
Damn it.
Impressive.
Wow.
The Wayne train, baby.
Yeah. According to Hockey Reference, his nickname is the Wayne Train, Simmer, Sim Daddy, Simcat, and Spider.
Wayne Simmons was part of the trade deadline where the Predators also acquired Brian Boyle. Did not work out. I think Wayne Simmons.
Was that the Ryan Ellis trade?
No, that was a different. Well, let me see.
I think
That,
Ryan
no,
Ellis was
no, you know who was a
2021.
part of that trade? Ryan Hartman. Ryan Hartman went to Philadelphia
Right.
as part of that deal.
That's right. Ryan Ellis was in
That
the
was the
offseason.
year that the Predators played the Stars in the first round. I think Simmons got hurt really early in the series, so he was barely here. But that
He
was
played
indeed Wayne
17
Simmons.
games.
Yes,
the Nashville Predators.
indeed Wayne Simmons. All right, Bigsby, you got one?
I do. We're going to go to the NFL for this one. This player played for the St. Louis Rams, the Dallas Cowboys, the San Francisco 49ers, the Green Bay Packers, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Buffalo Bills.
Wow. Okay. This is
Okay.
great.
So we know his career started a while back because he played for the St. Louis Rams.
Rams. Did you say it again one more time?
Rams,
Okay.
Cowboys,
Okay.
49ers, Packers, Jaguars, Bills.
I want to say this is a Where Are They Now legend, but I don't want to use one of my guesses. What the hell? I got 3 of them. Is it Tavon Austin?
It is Tavon
Yeah.
Austin.
Ah,
Okay, good for you. All right, back to the NHL. Detroit, San Jose, Columbus, Minnesota, Nashville, Minnesota, Winnipeg.
okay.
Detroit, San Jose, Columbus, Minnesota, Nashville, Minnesota, Winnipeg.
Minnesota, Nashville, then back to Minnesota, then to Winnipeg. Okay. Let's think this through. Is it a forward?
Yes.
Okay. No, well, I can't say that anymore.
You said 2 different stints in Columbus?
Let's see. Let me go through it again. Detroit, San Jose, Columbus, Minnesota, Nashville, Minnesota, Winnipeg.
Gustav Nyquist.
Bingo.
I was thinking that name,
Yes.
but I didn't want to blow it.
It was Gus Nyquist. All right. Connor, you're up, my friend.
To the association: Houston Rockets, Sacramento Kings, Toronto Raptors, Oklahoma City Thunder, Los Angeles Clippers.
Okay, one more time.
Rockets, Kings, Raptors, Thunder, Clippers.
You said we get 3 guesses?
All right,
Three.
I'm gonna guess one that I guessed the other day. That was wrong. Is it Rudy Gay?
It is not Rudy Gay.
Oh.
My guess was going to be Kevin Martin.
It is not Kevin Martin. Would you like the college?
Yes.
Yes.
My boys, the University of Kentucky.
Ooh.
Eric Bledsoe.
It is not Eric Bledsoe, but he did play with Eric Bledsoe.
And his first team was the Rockets.
Yes.
All right, so I've got 2 guesses. All right, I'm 2 guesses off, so I've got one more guess.
Terrence Jones.
Terrence Jones did not play with Eric Bledsoe. Actually, he might have,
I thought he did, but maybe not.
but he's around that era. You're getting there. You're close. I believe. No, he didn't win a championship with the Raptors.
I do not know.
Bigsby's thinking. He's thinking back there.
Patrick Patterson.
It is Patrick Patterson. Look at that.
Whoa.
According, his name is Pat or Two Pat, which I really like. Two Pat.
Two Pat's a good one.
Two Pat's cool.
That's an underrated nickname. Right
It is
there.
Patrick
Wow.
Patterson. Good pull. Great job.
All right.
Great
All right,
pick.
Brandon.
All right, we're going to stay on the hardwood for this one. This player has played for these teams: the Boston Celtics, the Toronto Raptors, the Denver Nuggets, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Detroit Pistons, back to the Nuggets, then the New York Knicks, then the Los Angeles Clippers, and then back to the Detroit Pistons.
There wasn't a Bucks in there, was there?
There was not a Bucks in there.
Okay,
Say it one more time.
one more time.
Yeah.
Celtics, Raptors, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Pistons, Nuggets again, Knicks, Clippers, Pistons.
Raul Neto.
No.
That was a shot in the dark. All right, that's one for me.
Would you like a hint?
Please.
Yes.
This player is a multi-time NBA All-Star.
Really? Okay.
Marcus Camby?
No.
Oh.
So who spent 2 stints with the with the Nuggets and the Timberwolves?
Oh, I think I've got to guess. Is
Who
it
you
Nate
got?
Robinson?
It is not Nate Robinson.
No, he played with Golden State, didn't he? Who the hell spent 2 stints with
He spent 2 stints with the Nuggets and Pistons.
Detroit? Oh, wow. Okay.
This player was drafted in 1997 in the first round.
1997 in the first round. Okay, and
Well, I think it's one of 2.
okay, go for it.
Rasheed Wallace,
No.
Ben Wallace.
No.
Damn.
I'm
out.
I'm stumped.
Chauncey Billups.
Oh,
Drafted by the Celtics with the 3rd
Chauncey.
overall pick in 97. Pistons legend, former finals MVP.
yes, of course. All right, to the NFL. San Diego, New Orleans, Philadelphia.
Okay.
That was a lot shorter than I
Yeah,
thought.
that
it would
is
be.
short. That is a pretty short path.
San Diego, New Orleans, Philadelphia.
That means this is a random Saints player that Adam loved.
I mean, I did love this guy.
Okay.
Offense or defense?
I feel like that would give it away. I will give you his college.
Okay, fair.
He was a Kansas State Wildcat.
Okay. Well, we're one team off from it being a quarterback.
Yeah.
One team too many.
San Diego, New Orleans, Philadelphia.
Man.
Is it Darren Sproles?
It is Darren Sproles.
Wow, there you go.
It is Darren Sproles. Good for you. All right, Connor, we got time for one more.
Okay. I'm between 2 from the hardwood. Let's see whose path is longer. They're both about the same. We'll do this one. Tampa Bay Bucks, Tennessee Titans, Washington Commanders.
So this is a very recent player then if he played for the Commanders.
Well, technically it was the Washington football team.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go.
Thank you
say,
for clarifying.
Say it one more time.
Buccaneers, Titans, football team.
Ooh. Ah, man.
When were they drafted?
They were drafted. Oh, well, let's see if I can find a year. I will tell you he is from Clemson. Drafted in 2015.
Kevin Dodd?
It is not Kevin Dodd.
Is it Albert Hainsworth?
It is not Albert Hainsworth. In fact, he is significantly smaller than Albert Hainsworth.
Okay. That might give it away.
Adam Humphries.
It is Adam Humphries.
Oh, there we go. Right at the buzzer.
My white king back in the 2020 season.
Right at the buzzer. All right, Connor, Brandon, excellent job this week, my friends.
Thank
helping
you.
me hold it down.
Well, thanks for having us.
Of
We
course,
appreciate it.
happy to have you. Willie and Derek will be back from vacation on Monday. They will have you all next week as the Tennessee Titans prepare or will open training camp. First practice is Wednesday morning. Connor, of course, will be along for the ride too. He'll be out at Titans training camp, and Connor will be live on our air right after DVD every day from 6 to 7.
The 6.
So you've got an extra hour of local coverage here on 102.5 The Game. I will be back Monday, August 3rd, when I will be reunited with Willie and Derek for the first time in like 3 weeks. So I will be very happy to see their big, wonderful, smiling, old faces. Don't tell them I said that. But in the meantime, Have a wonderful weekend. Again, thank you to everybody who participated this week. Connor, Brandon, Terry McCormick, Nick Suss, Easton Freeze, Turron Davenport, Trevor Maddich, Chad Withrow, everybody who made this show run this week. We really appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend. On behalf of Derek Mason, who will be able to say this himself next week, be loved, love on your people, have a restful and safe weekend. And Connor, at 3 o'clock, you, Willie, and Derek will be talking, and
Weekend Huddle tomorrow, 9 to 11. You'll be listening.
that's right. Peace.